The Democrats, of course, are very upset that Donald Trump is trying to bring back law and order to this nation, specifically in D.C. But rather than try to get behind these efforts, what do people like Jasmine Crockett try to do? Try to say that Donald Trump is playing partisan games and, of course, might even be racist for doing so. So that's exactly what we're going to see today with Jasmine Crockett getting smacked down in the House of Representatives. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Republican colleagues want to talk about being tough on crime and keeping criminals off the streets. And so we've talked about, let's talk about what is criminal. We've got members of Congress elected in other states, other cities, trying to subvert democracy and the will of the people of D.C. by dictating that the city act in a way the Republicans want because they think they know what's best. Republicans want to subvert the people's power. And it's not just for D.C., it's all over. We see this in states like Texas and North Carolina with gerrymandering. In fact, we still have members here who still think that Trump won in 2020. Republicans want to talk about crime and violence, but they don't want to admit their role in this crisis. The fact is that they still allow assault weapons in the hands of radical right extremists, which have forced families visiting a mall in my state of Texas to leave a mall with nothing more than trauma, hurt, and despair, as a neo-Nazi terrorized them, and yet, what did they have in their hand? Another AR-15. But we don't want to have a conversation about that. So we're talking about D.C. right now, but the murder rates in red states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama have statistically exceeded those in blue states like Illinois, New Mexico, and Michigan every year since 2000.
I'm going to turn the focus a little bit over to the law-abiding citizens. But I look back to all the lessons that my mom taught me was for every action, there's a reaction. And if you do an action and that's a bad action, you got to pay the consequences, Lisa. So you can make your own decisions, but when your decisions or when your actions hurt someone else, then you have to pay the consequences. And there are some things mom can help you with and some things other, but she can't. But you have to be responsible and more importantly, accountable for your actions. And I hear her on my shoulder chirping in my ear constantly. So I think mom's done her job. But let me just start. In May, as of May 9th of this year, total crime, I know you've heard the stats, but I think they bear repeating. Total crime up 27% in D.C. from the same time last year. Motor vehicle theft up 110%. Homicides up 12%. Sexual abuse is up 53%. And property crime is up 30%. That's not a good position for the law-abiding citizens to be in. And I think we need to really take a good long look at why. And I think it goes back, and I hear my mom in my back, on my shoulder, consequence to the action. What is the consequence to your action? Because if my curfew was at 10 o'clock and I came home at 10:05, there was a consequence to my action. And sometimes it was a little harsher than I thought, but I responded to that consequence. And the next time I came home at 9:50, I wasn't late. But despite a sharp increase in crime, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia declined to prosecute 67% of individuals arrested in D.C. in 2022. 67% of the people that committed an action didn't have a consequence to their action. I wonder what behavior that led to. I wonder if anyone can connect those dots. According to Police Chief Robert Conti, the average homicide suspect had been arrested 11 times prior to them committing the homicide. I wonder if we would have had a consequence to that action a little bit sooner if we would have had the same result. Right? My mom has zero time in law enforcement, but I think her concepts really make sense.
So that's something I've actually talked about a lot on this channel, right? Consequences for actions, okay? When you're trying to teach somebody something, you have to reinforce it over and over and over again. So what's the lesson being taught right now to criminals in DC? Oh, you're not going to get prosecuted no matter how violent the crime is if you're under the age of 18, unless, of course, you actually murder someone, okay? And you have all of these young thugs out there running around, not afraid of police, not afraid of being caught, not afraid for doing any type of crime because they know they're not going to get prosecuted. Okay, but of course, what's the standard defense from the left? Oh, there's other cities out there in red states that are, of course, more violent than DC. Okay, so let's actually talk about that because we actually do have this map released of the most violent cities in America, the top 20. But what we have to understand that out of nearly 20,000 cities, all right, DC is number 11. All right, that's pretty high. Now, are there worse cities? Of course there are. Are they in red states? Of course they are. But some of these cities in red states happen to be run by Democrats. So even though you're in a red state, your city is run by Democrats. Your judges are Democrats. Your prosecutors are Democrats. Okay, case in point, you have Jackson, Mississippi. You have Memphis, Tennessee. You have St. Louis. You have Baltimore, right? You have all of these cities that are in technically red states, but they are run by blue people. But I'm not here to defend that. Instead, what I do want to say is what's the result of actually enforcing crime? And I actually highlighted this on a video yesterday. Robbery is down 46%. Assault with a deadly weapon down 6%. Carjacking down 83%. Car theft down 21%. Violent crime down 22%. All right. We are seeing real results from actually enforcing the law. And this shouldn't be a vague concept for the Democrats to understand. When you have consequences for actions, the actions are not repeated as much as they would have been otherwise. But Jasmine Crockett, of course, is to come out and say, oh, Donald Trump is attacking these cities because they're not acting the way the Republicans want them to act. You mean by actually enforcing law and order, by actually enforcing the codes on the books? All right, that sounds perfectly reasonable to me. But one other big difference I want to point out. Why is Donald Trump not acting in these other states? All right, because he doesn't have the authority. Okay, in DC, Donald Trump specifically has that authority to take it over for at least 30 days. But in these other states, he does not, unless the state is violating federal law. That's when you could see Donald Trump act. Okay, but of course, Jasmine Crockett, being highly educated, don't forget, she's a lawyer, all right? She doesn't know this simple fact. But in places like Washington, D.C., where they refuse to prosecute 67% of criminals who actually have cases against them, then what do you think is going to happen? All right. So we need to have some law and order back in this country. It's not normal to have people walking around their cities being afraid. This should not be the new standard we live by. You have a right to be safe in your town, no matter where it is. And you should stand up and vote for the people who are going to deliver that. And if they're not, you've got to vote them out, whether you're Democrat, Republican, independent, or whatever. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.